Hey, what's happening? Listen, have you ever heard of a conundrum? Conundrum. So basically, what a conundrum is, it's a big fancy word for an enigma or a problem, something that's of mystery. You have to figure it out, right? And then some examples of a conundrum would be what what walks on four legs in the morning, two legs in the afternoon, and three legs in the evening? Okay. The answer to that is an old man. You remember the story about the Sphinx? The Sphinx, Sphinx, the Sphinx. So in Oedipus Rex, if you read that book, if you're old enough where you had to read the book like me in school, that would be an example. Another one would be, and another conundrum would be a young adult leaving home and starting credit. Well, what do you need to get credit? You need credit to get credit, right? So it doesn't make sense. It's all a mystery. So it's basically a problem that needs to be figured out. All right, as opposed to a cliche. A cliche, you may have heard of things like ducks lined up. When I get my ducks lined up, get my ducks in a row. Whatever that means. Is it ducks, D-U-C-K-S? Or is it duck like, let me see, a little clicker down. Or is it duck like D-U-C-K-S? Ducks, quack, quack, quack. What do they mean when they say get my ducks in a row? I know what they mean is that they're saying, for example, when I move into my apartment, then I'll start buying furniture. Or when I get married, then I'll stop, running different women or men. Or it may mean that when I get a car, then I'm going to start going out more, right? When they say get the ducks in the line. But when they talk about ducks, quack, 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 we know the ducks are stupid and unintelligent. And so therefore you can't get them in a line. Because if you get them in a line, you can't get them lined up in a single file because they don't have the understanding to do that. And if you see them doing that, you seen it on a cartoon or wherever, it just happened. Ducks don't stay in a row, okay? If they get in a row, they just got lucky and got in a row. Even if they follow mom, they don't stay in there. Ducks, D-U-C-K. Oh, wait, I wrote ducks. I'm sorry. My eraser kind of quit on me. I have to get another one. D-U-C-T-S, ducts, like an air conditioner or a conveyor of energy or electricity or water duct, basically a conduit, that type of duct. I don't know. But some other ideas, some other cliches that people say, and a cliche again is just things that people say that people have always said. One man's trash is another man's treasure. One man's meat is another man's poison. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? You get the point? Or the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. I know you are like that, right? I see you looking at me. Okay, so with that, having said that being said, the real reason of this video, remember I told you in the beginning, dig your well before you get thirsty. That's what we want to talk about. Dig your well before you get thirsty. What are we saying there? You're saying that if you want to drink water, you need to dig to get the water because water comes from the ground, right? I know you think it comes from the sky, but water really comes from the ground. The clouds pull it up, condensation, evaporation, and all that stuff, and it comes into rain. That's not what this video is about, right? When I'm talking about dig your well before you get thirsty, what I really am talking about here is get a living will. You need a living will. Well, what is a living will? I'm glad you asked. A living will is a legal document that's signed by you and witnessed by someone else, right? You set that out, and that's for your living health care while you are alive. Not the same as a last will and testament. A last will is about your things. Who get my watch? Who gets my glasses, right? Who get my clothes, my cars, my money, that's last will. We're not talking about stuff. And when, nobody wants to think about their own demise, is true. And you don't want to think about giving up your stuff, right? Right. Who gets the Range Rover? Who gets the Porsche? Right? Who gets the Ford Escort? Right? Whatever you have is about who's getting what. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about here now is advanced directive type stuff. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're traveling along in your automobile. Maybe you're getting off work, right? And you're on your way home, or you're on your way to work. And this happened to one of my coworkers years ago. My coworker was on the way to work, and it was raining that day, and she went into a curve, and someone overcompensated in the curve. There was a head-on collision, and she was rendered dead on the scene. Right? So just think about it. Maybe you're on your way to the grocery store to pick up groceries, or you're coming to pick your kids up from daycare, or just drop them off. Whatever the case might be. I had another whole family that I went to college with. Him and his wife, and they had 2 children. And they were traveling from a vacation in Florida. I lived in North Carolina at the time, right? And they were traveling, and they got into an accident, and the whole family were killed, were unalive in that accident. And so this is what we need to think about when we're talking about a living will. What if you are not unalived? What if you're traveling along on the highway, or on the street, as you want to call it, a parkway, right? You're driving, and you get into an accident, and you wind up in a coma, or you're falling down the steps at your house. In the East Coast right now, it's snowing, and it's all kinds of ice and stuff that's going on. You get into an accident. Don't have to always be in the street. It can be at home. Long story short, what if you end up in a place where you're in a coma and you can't speak to the doctors about your health care? And here we're talking about pulling the plug. Everyone has heard of pull the plug, and if you have never heard of it, you can't tell that lie no more, because now you know. Pull the plug. You may not want that plug to be pulled. When you can put a directive in place to say to do everything possible, everything feasible to save my life. But if you don't have that in place, then guess what? The doctors are going to do what's in the best interest of the hospital, the organization, not you. So just think about that, okay? So dig your well before you get thirsty. What am I saying here is have this directive in place, your living will in place, before you need it, okay? Because most of the time when people do pass away, they end up making a stop at the hospital. Everyone is not so lucky to get unalived in an accident. Some people they're suffering, and they may be in a comatose state for a long time. So here are 3 reasons why you should really, really consider getting a living will. Number 1, you want to make sure that your wishes are taken care of or carried out, right? That's one reason. Number 2, your health and finances, right? That comes into play as well. Number 3, the family. The people that you say that you love the most, don't have to put them in a place where they have to make a decision. And I'm going to tell you a case in point that actually happened in my own life. My dear brother, my own brother, this is a real story. My brother, somehow he ended up having problems with his kidney, and he ended up with renal failure disease. That is kidney failure. You cannot live without your kidney. His kidneys went bad, and they put him in he had to go to the hospital. He ended up, I remember the Christmas before he died, December, January, 3 months before he died, that Christmas. And I remember we said, let's have a drink and toast to Christmas. And we had that drink. And then he went for a ride with my dad. And my dad said that he had to stop 3 times for my brother to throw up on the side of the road. Nobody knew what was going on. My brother at the time, he lived in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. He went to one of the best hospitals in the country, Howard University. They sent him home. They couldn't find out what was going on, so he went back, and then they ended up sending him to a hospital in Maryland. And understand that these are training hospitals. These are where doctors go learn to become doctors. One of the best hospitals in the country. Okay, these are two of the best hospitals in the country. And my brother laid there. And I remember my sister and I, we lived in Atlanta, Georgia at the time, and we rushed there to be by his bedside. And during the time, and he was in bad shape, just that quick. Now remember, we're talking about Christmas, right? Christmas. And he started getting sick in February. That's when he finally decided to go to the doctor. Sometimes people, that's another thing, you gotta go to the doctor. Listen to your body. Your body knows what's going on. And if it's telling you that there's something wrong, don't be this guy that say, I'm a man, I'm so tough, I'm not gonna go. Men get sick too. And men die too. Could it have been prevented? Probably not. But could his life have been prolonged? Maybe if he had been going to the doctor and taking care of himself a little bit better, then yes. And I'm telling you something that's true and dear to my heart. This is my own brother that I'm talking about. And what my family had to go through and what we witnessed and seeing him going through this stuff in the hospital. And I'm even getting emotional talking about it right now, but I'm trying to keep it together. And maybe you witnessed something like this. And in March, 3 months later, in March, he was in the hospital and he ended up in a coma. And it was not a light, and the prognosis was looking very bad. And so they called all us together. We had a conference call. We had a conference. Well, we went to see him first, had a conference with the doctor, and then we planned to come back and see him in a couple more weeks because we had to come back and go to work because we still had to maintain our own livelihood. Sometimes, you want to take care of mother, you want to take care of father, and you end up having to put them in a place because you don't have the stability or you don't have the things that you need to take care of mom and daddy. So you have to put them in a facility that they can be watched over. And that's understandable. I lived in Georgia, he lived in Maryland. And he had a fiance that he was living with, And where am I going with this? Well, in March, they called us together and we decided, we had a family meeting, and the doctor said, well, you have to make a decision because it's not going to get any better. He's not coming out of this coma. And when I saw him in that hospital, I couldn't keep it together. My other brother broke down. I had to get him out of there, and all of us, it was a mess. It was a mess. If you've ever seen anything like this, it was a mess. And if you never went through anything like this, I hope that you never have to go through it in your life, right? And my brother probably was ready to go, but we wanted to keep my brother. We didn't want our brother to die. So here he is in the hospital suffering. And so we had to make a decision to pull the plug. And we decided together that that's what we're going to do. We're going to pull the plug. And we were supposed to do that on that Thursday. And thankful to God be the glory, I got a phone call from my brother in North Carolina telling me he had already passed away. So we didn't have to go pull that plug. You don't want to be in a situation like that, because if we had pulled that plug, I know in the back of my mind that I would be wondering, what if I didn't pull that? What if we didn't pull the plug? What if he would have come through? Now, we know when we look at the prognosis, there was just no way he was going to make it. There was no way he was going to make it. But at the end of the day, God stepped in and God made that decision for us. And we didn't have to make that decision ourselves. So I say to you today, very openly, very candidly, and very seriously, if you love your family, have these discussions. Have these discussions with your parents. Your parents are aging. And one day your family is not going to be able to say that that I want this, that, and the third done. Make sure that they have a trust in place, and that they have a last will and testament. And sometimes nobody want to talk about this stuff. And sometimes our parents don't even want to talk to us about this stuff. But at least you can say, I tried. I went to mom and dad and I talked about it. And they decided they didn't want to answer my questions. Sometimes people don't want to talk about that stuff. I get it. And especially men. Women are more affable to have these conversations. Guys, men, you don't want to have these conversations. Yet women are outliving us, black men, by upward of 6 years. And now with technology getting better, now with medical advancements is getting better. People are living longer. People are learning how to exercise and how to eat right. And if you have an illness, for God's sake, eat right. I know you love your sweets. Don't eat sugar all the time. You know you're overweight. You know you have diabetes. Get your big fat behind up and get out there and go work out. Because the decision is not just yours to make. It's the people that you're leaving behind. Those are the people that matter. You see, when you leave this world, there are other people that are hurting. It's an empty space in here. So I don't want to get off on that too much. All I'm saying is dig your well before you get thirsty. Because as sure as Ma was married to Pa, and they damn sure wasn't shacking, you're going to check out everything in life. There is a expiration date, not just the food on your shelf, but one day you've seen it. Grandmama dead. Both of my parents are dead. All of my uncles and aunts are deceased. All of my aunts and uncles. And if you have aunts and uncles, if you have mom and dad, love them and appreciate them now while you can, because one day God is going to need them back, and you're going to have an empty place in your void, empty void in your heart. And it's not going to be a good feeling. Do right by your parents right now. Do right by your loved ones. Love the people that God gave you right now, instead of putting a tattoo on your body or feeling bad or wanting to get in the casket, or you can't sleep because they're deceased. Everybody's going to pass away. Have the relationship with them now. Every time I went to see my mother, I carried her a bouquet of flowers. You heard me talk about that in past videos. I carried her flowers. My mama always said, when I die, don't leave all these expensive flowers for me. Of course, we did that because, you know, my family liked to make a statement, and we won't want to let my mother go out looking poor, because we're not. But at the end of the day, have that relationship. And now I can sleep at night. I don't sit there and cry every time it's my mother's birthday. I don't go through Christmas thinking about that all the time. I think about it sometimes. And I keep her in here because I had the relationship with her when she was alive. Stop waiting for people to leave the world and then you want to get involved and show them how much you love them. You don't. That's just guilt that's riding you. And that is a sin. Guilt. So, I know I kind of got off the subject. All I'm saying is, look, it's better to be prepared. Have your living will. Have all that stuff together. And then let the people know, the parties that are involved, what role will they be carrying out? What are the expectations? Where the documents can be found? You know, you got them hid in the attic or under the mattress, and it should be in a file cabinet. If it's in the attic or in the mattress, let somebody know. And if it's in the attic or in a mattress and you die in a fire, or you get unalived in a fire, this wordplay mumbo jumbo, you become unalive in fire, guess what happens to your documents, your important documents? So, that being said, it's your life, it's your family, do as you will. If you have questions about this, get with someone in your community that does that. If there's no one that you know in your community that does that, I hope that I've gained your trust. And if I haven't gained your trust, then I will. If it's something I can't do, I'm going to tell y'all the bet I can't do. If it's something that don't make sense, I'm going to tell you. But I can tell you this before I go. If you don't have a plan, you still have a plan. It's either your plan or the government's plan. The government means probate, and the probate decides who gets what. But the decision will be made, and it's up to you. Thank you for your time and your attention. That's all that I have. We'll chat on the next video. Have an awesome day.